Shabbat Shalom, Israel. This is old school brother Yahweh. Today I want to talk about finding Judah. So we know where Judah is as part of the 12 tribes of Israel. This is mainly for the old cats that are Christians and not realizing that they're actually Israel. So let's go to Genesis 32. Genesis 32 and 22. What I want to do is show you where Judah is today. There's 12 tribes, but we got to find Judah. And once we find Judah, then it'll be easy to understand where the other 11 tribes are. But it's very important to understand who Judah is, or Yahweh. Genesis 32, verse 22. And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the brook, and sent over that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. So here it is, Jacob is wrestling with an angel, and toward the dawn of the day, the angel had to break his hip in order to get free. So because Jacob wouldn't let go. So the aspects of Jacob can be found in a certain race of people. I want to show you something. You remember this guy right here? Remember that guy? You remember the movie called Superfly? If you get this movie, especially you young bucks that haven't seen it, but you old timers, I know you remember this movie called Superfly. You remember in that movie how they used to walk, all the characters, and they had that limp walk? No other race had that kind of walk but Israel, especially Judah. If you go back into the day, back in the 70s, 60s, 80s, we got it today still, but not like back then. That's how you can tell. That's one aspect you can tell of Judah. Because they had that broke lip, that pimp daddy walk. And we still got that to this day. And we have, most of us have no idea why we even walk like that. That's where it come from, when Judah had his hip broke. Okay, now let's keep going. Genesis 49. Genesis 49, 8 through 10. Genesis 49, verse 8. Judah, thou art the home thy brethren shall raise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thy enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down and couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who can rouse him up? Now, all the other Israelite groups, we're actually like the strength of Israel. When we rise, the rest of them rise. You remember back in the 60s when we were doing all that marching, in the 50s, during that time period, other nations was watching us. Those were the other Israelite groups, like Cuba, Panama, certain parts of Africa, South Africa. They was watching our movement. But once we rise up, the rest of the Israelite groups also rise up. But I'm going to show you something. My point is to prove who Judah is. Now, I'm going to read 9 again. Judah is lion's whelp from the prey. my son, thou art gone up. Now, think about a lion and what a lion looks like. Here's another attribute. I'm going to show you something. I want you to take a good look at this. This is what a lion looks like. And this symbol is for Judah. Okay? This is what the Most High gave us. We are like a lion. Look at that lion real good. What do you see behind his head? How can you tell the difference between a lion and a lioness, which is behind that lion? That fur around his head. Now, that's just a four-legged animal, but I want you to look at it real good because I'm going to show you something else. Okay? Look at the difference. Now, check this out. Who is this? You remember that? What do their head look like? That was most of us in the 70s and the 60s and the 80s. You see the comparison? The lion, see, we would compare to this animal. And eventually, we end up looking just like that animal with the big fro. See? That was us. Mexicans didn't have that. The Cubans didn't have that. None of the other tribes look like that. That's just a comparison of who Judah is. Because I know them Sunday churches, they teach that the Israelites are done away with. When these are our characteristics. How stupid. You can't get no stupid in that. Now let's keep going. I'm going to go into the book of Deuteronomy. And we're going to go into some curses. Deuteronomy 28. No, let me go to Deuteronomy 7. 7 and 6. Okay. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Now see, this is Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel. This is the race of people that he created. Among all the races, he created one for himself. Among all the birds, he created one for himself. Among all the flowers, he created one for himself. I think it's the dove, if I'm not mistaken. And the flower, everything the Most High created, he created one unto himself, even the people. So Israel is from Jacob, the 12 tribes of Israel. And here it's saying, the Lord of God has chosen thee to be a special kind of people. Now, this was given to Moses when we came out of Egypt. So that was us that actually came out of Egypt, not them people in the Middle East. Because them people in the Middle East can't even grow a fro. And they walk nothing like us. Okay? So let's go from here into the curses. Deuteronomy 28:15. Deuteronomy 28. We'll start at Deuteronomy 28, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and do all these commandments which I commanded thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations. See, here it is again. He would have put us above all nations, which we're not now. At one time we was, but we're not. We slipped. So now we have to go into the curses. Deuteronomy 28:15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the Lord, the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall be unto thee and overtake thee. Now it's a whole list of curses. And 80% of it fits us, which is what you call the Black Americans today. Some of it fits the tribe of Gad, which is North American Indians, and some of it fit the Mexicans, which is Issachar, and the other Israelite nations that's in the South America. But the bulk of it is us, okay? I'm just going to go into a few of it. I'm not going to hit all of it because it's too much. Okay. Okay, 28 and 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thy eyes shall look and fill with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand. Now, that was during slavery when we came off the slave ship. Now, I know most of you don't know that the first slave ship that came from England was called the good ship Jesus. Isn't that something? A ship called Jesus. Now, Jesus was a savior of his people. So that particular ship they named Jesus out of England was actually a ship that would save them. And that's why they call that ship the good ship Jesus. And on that ship, I can't tell you how many slaves that they threw off the ship. That wasn't the only one, but that was the first one that came from Africa over to the area of England. That was before they even came to America. I wish I could think of the guy's name that sailed that ship. It wasn't Christopher Columbus. But that ship named Jesus should tell you that that wasn't even Christ's name, because there was no J's back then. This was in the 1500s when the ships came and took us into slavery. The fruit of thy land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and cursed always. Now you old timers can go back in time, and you can understand this is as bad as we were in the 70s, 60s, and 50s, and also the 80s. We would finish college and not even know what we're going to do next. I mean, it's like that today, but it was worse back then. You know, we always with the Jim Crow laws, it was always against us. Every time we tried to prevail and anything we did, especially when it came to a job and providing for our families. So thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. That's when they was taking the children. And I tell you something else. When we got off the slave ships, there was they would have the slave men and the women, and they would force them to mate. Now, when we got on the slave ship, butt naked. The garments that we wore, they took them off. And we got on there butt naked as a way of baptizing us into like a Christianity. When we got on the ships, we were Hebrews. When we got off the ship, it was like a baptism, and we were forced into Christianity. So if we were Hebrews before then in Africa, after we left out of Israel, because we left Israel in 70 AD, then we went into Africa over the Atlas Mountains. And a few years before then, a lot of Judah of that day in Rome had left 5 years before, but there was a remnant left. Then when 70 AD came, the Roman army pushed us over the Atlas Mountains into Africa for 1,250 years. That's where we stayed, and that's where Christopher Columbus came, and that's when the transatlantic slave trade started. So finding Judah, you can just go back in time and look at how we live. And the way we lived and the way we suffered was actually a sign. Let me get that. Deuteronomy 28 and 46. 28 and 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thee and upon thy seed forever. See, what we went through in the old days and what we're going through today with all these young brothers being shot down, Bloods and the Crips, the 70s hanging us on trees, all those were signs of who we were and who we are as a race of people. We're not African American. African American is not a race. African American is you calling yourself a slave of two Italian Edomites, Leo Scipio Africano and Americano Vespucci. Leo was the general that took over Africa, conquered Africa. And Americano Vespucci was the founder of America. So you put those two together, you were slaves of those two people. We were Hebrews before then. Hebrew Israelites, when we got on the ship. Now, after they beat us, whipped us, a lot of us was put to death. There were some women, when they was forcing the slaves to have sex with each other. And when the slave women would get pregnant, they would take some women, they would have a selection, I think out of 10 or 15, and they would tie one to a tree. And they would literally cut the child out of the woman's womb as a fear tactic to the rest of the women. And some of the fathers was there to watch also. It was a fear tactic. And they would cut the child out of the womb and they would bust this child against a brick, or they would stomp the child to death. So that will put the fear in the other women that were also pregnant. So when the children was raised, they was raised to fear the Caucasian race of that time. And they would be treated as though they're gods. They're trying to put themselves in a position of a god. And that's why we had so much fear for the white race, because of what they done to us. But now remember, the punishment that was done to us was a sign to tell who we are and who we were as the children of God, the Hebrew Israelites. Okay? I want to go to another one. Jeremiah 14. Oh, I want to show you Isaiah 45 and 4. Isaiah 45 and 4. Show you that we are the chosen people. Isaiah 14 and 45 and 4. Isaiah 45 and 4. For Jacob, this is the same Jacob that wrestled with the angel, my servant's sake, and Israel, my elect. You see, even in Isaiah, the Most High God is saying Israel is his elect. So when you read about the elect in the book of Revelation, it's talking about Israel. We're God's chosen people. And how can we find that out? Look at how we living. Look at how we at the bottom. Look at how they just shooting young black men. Look at how they doing Bill Cosby. Now that's sickening. An 80-year-old man. And they pretty much taking everything from that man. Now Bill Cosby, that's another case. That would be for another Sabbath. But he is a Mason, and there's a price to pay when you in them secret societies. Now they're going after Morgan Freeman. See the what they call it, the laws where after so many months you can't file charges. That's all done away with. You can't even use them no more. So here is Bill Cosby, 80 years old, and they tearing him apart. For Jacob my servant's sake and Israel my elect, I have even called thee by thy name. And the name was given to Jacob, Israel. Okay, now let's go to 1 Corinthians 10 and 20. This is what they done to us during slavery, how they forced us to get rid of our Hebrew culture. 1 Corinthians. First Corinthians 10 and 20. First Corinthians 10 and 20. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, Gentiles are people outside of Israel. Anybody outside of Hebrew Israelites, we're called Gentiles. Now, I know your churches today are saying we're Gentiles, but you got to remember, we were beaten out of our Hebrew heritage during slavery. Even before slavery in Rome, the Jews of that day thought they were Roman. Some of them thought they were Greeks because they lost the culture. So when you lose the culture to the Most High God, you're considered a Gentile. So even they were considered a Gentile, just like your Sunday churches are telling you we are today. But once you come back to the Most High, you're no longer a Gentile. But if you're outside of Israel and you decide to worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you're still a Gentile, but you still welcome in to the new kingdom. But if you are Israelite, Mexican, Black American, Cuban, Jamaican, Hawaiian, all of them, once they wake up as part of the 12 tribes, they're no longer Gentiles. They become a Hebrew Israelite. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils. Didn't they teach us to sacrifice? Or didn't they give us a new God in slavery? They sacrifice to devils and not to God. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with the devils. Now, I read this because in slavery, a lot of things change. And I must show you one of the things to change was the gods that we serve. This is the God that was pushed on us. This gay blade right here. The faggot guy right there that most people call Jesus. That's Caesar Borgia. Caesar Borgia, the man was gay. And this is the false image of the beast that's in the book of Revelation. That right there. I'm going to continue to harp on him because I don't see how in the world they got the whole world fooled that this is Christ. And I'm going to go through the scripture and show you that the real Christ looks nothing like this. I'm not even going to go into Revelation 1 where it describes him. I'm going to go into other scriptures and show you that that image there is the false image of the beast. That is not Christ. Let's go to, but the image was forced on us. We had no choice. We either died or worshiped him. You know? Oh, there. Let's go to First Maccabees. This is in a book called the Apocrypha. This was in the Bible before the Catholic Church took it out. And it's a good book. It exposes races today, especially Edomite. And don't let nobody tell you that the book is not carnal. It's stupid because the writers of the book were Hebrew Israelites. They were our people. So why ignore your own people, scrolls that they wrote, but yet you listen and read other races that wrote lies? Like that faggot I just told you, that showed you Caesar Borgia. Let's go to First Maccabees 3. First Maccabees 3. First Maccabees 3 and 48. Okay, I'm going to start at 46. Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Maphah over against Jerusalem. For Damascus was the place where they prayed for time in Israel. Then they fasted. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their cloth and went their clothes and laid open the book of the law, which is the Bible, wherein the heathen has sought to paint the likeness of their images. There it is. See? I'll read it again. And laid open the book of the law where the heathen have sought to paint the likeness of their images. See? Once you wake up and realize you're a Hebrew Israelite, old school, it's like a different ball game. You pretty much have to learn this Bible all over again because the whole book is about us. It's for us. It's a warning to us of things to come. It shows us in the past, if you dig into the past, who we were, and the past tell us who we are today, because they knew then that they was going to beat us and change our identity. That's why we're walking around here calling ourselves Mexican, Puerto Rican, African American, Cuban. The Most High didn't give us those names. Okay, who gave Esau the right to change our identity and call us by land? They even call themselves by lands. Don't this thing is no Frenchman. French is not a race. German is not a race. Okay, Italy, Italian, that's not a race. You name yourself after a land to hide your identity. But Israel is waking up now. Kwam Yasha Allah. Israel is waking up. Okay, let's go to let's see. Jeremiah 14:2. This one here should describe what's another one in yeah. Oh, let's go to 2nd Esdras. 2nd Esdras 6:54. 2nd Esdras 6:54. This is what the Most High think of other nations. Since Sunday churches think the Most High is coming for everybody, Christ is coming for everybody. This is what he thinks of the other nations. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures. Of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. Remember now, the chosen is Israel. That's his chosen race. All this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sake. Our is Israel. The world was made for our sake, for us to teach and show them how to live amongst the earth from the laws that was given to Moses. We were to pass them down to the other nations. It didn't go that way. As for the other people which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are likened. Thou hast said that they are nothing, but be like unto spittle. Spittle is spit. That's spittle. I'm going to read it again. As for the other people which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing, but be like unto spittle. See? That's what the Most High think of the other nations. But to show you the love he has for Israel, and he's begging Israel to come back to him. Christ came to bring, at that time, of the tribe of Judah, which was us in Rome. He was trying to bring Israel back to the marriage. That was Christ, the black Christ, not the faggot, was trying to bring us back into the marriage, there had to be a sacrifice. But when he was out teaching, the majority of his teaching and the disciples, they went out to try to find Israel that was among Rome, that was among Greece, that was among the other nations when we were spreading out. Because in 721 BC, we were spread out everywhere. The other 10 tribes was among all the nations. And some of Judah and Benjamin was spread into other nations that was around Rome. So when Christ came, he came to bring us back to a second marriage. The first marriage, when we came out of the wilderness, that was a marriage ceremony. Eventually, we done so bad that the Most High had divorced us. I think that's in Jeremiah. Let me get that. He divorced Israel. But the point is, you old timers, when your Sunday teachers teach you that, you're looking at it as though it was another race when it was actually us. That was our bloodline. Let's go to Jeremiah. Go to Jeremiah so I can find that where he divorced us. Jeremiah. Okay. Okay, Jeremiah 3:8. And I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel, okay, that's Israel after 12 tribes, that's Jacob, remember his name was changed, where backsliding Israel committed adultery. That means you went to other gods. You would sacrifice children like Solomon did with that, I think it was a 5-star or 6-pointed star. They were put in the middle of the doggone floor. Solomon eventually was sacrificing babies because he married so many women. That's why the Most High does not want Israel to marry outside of Israel, because it would turn you away from your God. This is what happened to Solomon. Solomon is a prime example. Those women he was married to that was of other nations eventually talked him into sacrificing children, and this angered the Most High. And I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I have put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not. So at this point, Israel is the northern 10 tribes. Okay, Judah and Benjamin stayed in Israel in the southern part. The other northern part, I can't think of the king, Ephraim. I think it was Ephraim, was over the northern king. They were all spread it out. Okay, and a lot of them left in 721 BC. They started going to other nations as slaves. Okay, so we come back here, yet her treacherous sister Judah. Judah, like I explained earlier, when Jacob had his hip broke, and I showed you in the pictures of Judah, the characteristics of Judah being us, mainly here in America. Her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also. Eventually, we start going into other beliefs, like, let's see, Catholic belief, mainly pagan. It was mostly pagan stuff, like what you doing today with this Christmas and Easter garbage. They was doing it back then. They were celebrating Christmas even before Christ came on the scene. Saturnalia and the Brumalia. The treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot. Now, when Judah went out, before then, Christ came through Judah. Okay, so if Christ came through Judah, and I just showed you who Judah was, who would Christ be today? Where would he be today? He'd be right over there in 5th Ward, 3rd Ward, Acres Home. That's where he would be. And if that's the case, who is this? You know good and well he ain't going to no ghetto. He'd be up in the woodlands. You see the trickery, how we're following other gods even to this day. And it came to pass through the likeness of her whoredom that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and with stocks. I'm just pointing out Judah. I'm just pointing out who Judah is and where you can find Judah today. Now, if you can find Judah here in America, you can find the other tribes in their land. Okay, let's go to Jeremiah. Jeremiah 14:2. Check this out. Jeremiah 14. And 2. Jeremiah 14:2. Judah mourneth. Judah mourneth means we, all down through the years, we've been asking God to get us out of certain situations, mainly in the 50s and 60s when they were hanging us. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't even cut the body down. In the slavery, how they would come and rape the young women, or if a slave male got married, the master had sex with her first. All these different, all the working from sun up to sun down, all the hardship, all the complaints and the prayer and asking God to, deliver us out of this. That's mourning. And we are like that today. Okay, Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish, are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is going up. That's the prayers. You see, they are black unto the ground. If Judah is black unto the ground, who is that over there in Israel today, calling themselves Jewish? Let's find out who that is, because I've just proven that Judah is black unto the ground. Let's go to Revelation 2:9. Revelation 2:9. We're going to find out who that is calling themselves Jewish. Revelation 2:9. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty. That's the hardship that we've been going through for hundreds of years. But thou art rich. How are we rich if we're in poverty? Because we're inheriting the kingdom to come. That's why nobody can rescue us out of our conditions. All the black leaders, Malcolm X, King, Medgar Evers, all got shot down because Christ is the one to deliver us, not no man. So every time there's an attempt to deliver us out of something as a whole race of people, they get gunned down. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews. That's the Jewish people over in Israel. And are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. You see? Them people over there in Israel with that stupid hairdo and that beard, wearing all black, them the most evilest people on this planet. And they run and control every war there is since 1948. Ever since they've been there, the whole Middle East been in an uproar. Because I think it's in Revelation where the Antichrist would sit in Jerusalem. The Jewish people is totally against Christ. They don't even believe in Christ. Okay, they believe that nothing that he's done, and they definitely don't believe he was black. Then they say that he was in hell and boiling and what I call shit. I can't think of the other name they call it, not increments, but anyway, it's human waste, boiling. That's what they say Christ is doing in hell. See, so the Jewish people don't even believe in Christ. I don't use this name Jesus because there was no J's. His name is Yeshua. And I'm not going to sit here and say you calling Yeshua Jesus by mistake. It's not a mistake, because when you say Jesus, you're thinking of the faggot I just showed you. Okay, when you say Yeshua, you're thinking of the black Christ that came and died out of the tribe of Judah, and I just proved to you that Judah is black as the ground. Okay, let's go to that's Revelation 3:8. Now I'm gonna go back and read Revelation 2:9, and then I'm gonna jump over to Revelation 3:9, and watch this. I know that works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Now go to Revelation 3:9 and check this out. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee, which is Israel. You see? So that proves to you that these Jewish people are not the real Jews. The real Jews are in poverty, that I read in Deuteronomy 28. There's so many curses there. I don't have time to go through all of them because it's just too many. But I tell you what I will do. I'm going to go to Deuteronomy 28. I think it's 60. Deuteronomy 28. Go to Deuteronomy 28 and 68. Watch this. I'm still on Judah. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Okay, now we got to understand what is Egypt, because I'm sure you old timers thinking of the nation of Egypt. So let's go to Exodus 20:1. Exodus 20:1. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So you see, Egypt is synonymous to bondage or slavery, same thing. So these people that came out of Egypt was actually us, our ancestors, which was the 12 tribes of Israel, which, the Mexicans, Hawaiians, Jamaicans, Puerto Ricans, all the 12 tribes. That was us that came out of Egypt. That was our bloodline. It was not no Middle Eastern people. Okay? I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Now let's go back to Deuteronomy 28:68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt or bondage, slavery again with ships. We came out of Egypt, out of slavery. Now he's saying he's going to send us back into slavery, but this time you're going by ships. Now, which race that went into slavery on ships packed like sardines? Not them Jewish people over in Israel. They were never on ships. Not the Chinese. They wasn't on ships. Not the Middle Eastern people, Saudi Arabia, the Arabians. They were never on ships. They had us in bondage before the Caucasian people put us in bondage. So this can fit nobody but us. And the Lord shall bring you into Egypt slavery again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, which is Israel, not no damn Africa. Africa was an area that we ran into, running out of Rome. Because remember, we were the one that was telling that black Christ to crucify him. That was us doing that. And after we done that and put him to death like that, it was all over. They done everything in hell to us when 70 AD came. That's called Jacob's trouble. Jacob's trouble started in 70 AD up until now. And it's going to get worse in the time to come. Jacob is Israel, and we are Judah of Jacob. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy thee. No man would get up out of that condition, and they didn't for 400 years when slavery came about. The Arabians came and got us in 600, had us enslaved over there, and 1400, here come Christopher Columbus. And plus the one from England. Hawkins, I think that's his name. Something Hawkins was the one from England with the good ship Jesus. Your Sunday churches is not going to go into this. So you old timers, man, you got to wake up. There's no excuse for you now because we don't have a real hard bondage like we used to. We can read now and get these books, and there's no excuse to find out who your God is, because the Most High God is begging us to come back to him. Now, all of us is not going to understand this, but there's a remnant that he's calling and that he's waking up for them, or for us to see that who we really are. We're Hebrew Israelite. Out of that calling, the people that he's waking up is going to be 144,000. So, you old timers, you're gonna, I don't know no other way to put it. When I say old timers, I'm talking about you 60s, 70s, 80s, and if you're in your 90s still living, I'm talking to you too. You're going to have to reread it. You're going to have to come back to your God. Like my grandmother say, at a certain age, you got one foot in the ground. Before you get that other foot, you need to find out who your God is, because it's going to be a price to pay when you give up the ghost. Okay? There's no going up to no heaven sitting next to the right hand of the Father. I'm so sick of hearing that. You going down to Hades. All of us go to Hades. And there's a division. There's a torment side and the bosom of Abraham. You're going to one or the other. So, and I hate to be hard like that, but if you up in age, you ain't got a lot of time left. And I don't either. And I'm 53 years old. And I thank the Most High or higher for tapping me on the shoulders and waking me up. So I'm trying my best to do these videos for you old school. Let's go to Hebrews 7:14. I'm a hop on Christ a little bit more. Hebrews . There, 7:14. For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah, of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning the priesthood. The Levites were the priests. For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah. You see, Christ came out of Judah. And I've just explained to you, Judah was black as the ground. And eventually it became us, because we were the ones on slave ships. Our children were sold to other nations. You know, we were just, what can you call it? A commodity, a trade market. The stock market was built off of the trading of slaves back in those days. So Judah if Christ was here today from the tribe of Judah, he would be right here with us. Probably somewhere in Chicago. But to show you that Christ's bloodline is the same as your bloodline, you black people in America calling yourselves African American. I did it too, but I stopped once I found out who I was. I immediately stopped. And I dug into more information and research. And once I got enough, I said, hey, I'll never call myself African American again. Even if I have to fill out an application and I see the African American, I'm not going to fill it out. And I just explain to them that my nationality is not on your application. See, and if they not deny it, you can still fight it because you have a right to your religious belief, just like other nations that come over here have a right to their religious belief. And if they tell you you don't, that's forcing you to accept what they created, which is a nigger or a Negro. And that's another word, Negro. Negro is not a race. In Italian, it means black. And black means nothing because you can't get nothing out of black. And the other colors, as they think, you can add other colors and get something out of it. But black is such a dark color, you can get nothing out of it. So they consider us as a nothing race. We're worth nothing. So when you sit there and call yourself Negro, you're calling yourself a nothing race. You're worthless. The only thing worthless on this planet is a pig. He's worthless. There's no use for him but to eat the garbage of the land. That's why the Most High said, don't eat pork. I was guilty of it years ago, but I was never a big pork eater as a young buck because I was always into weightlifting. So that was no problem stopping that. But that's the only thing that's worthless is a pig. So you continue calling yourself Negro, you might as well call yourself a nigger because Negro is not a race. Sorry. So you old timers, I didn't want to make this too long. I just wanted to show you who Judah was as part of the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay. So then my next, if I make another video, which I will, most of my videos are for older people. So I'm gonna say shalom to you, and until next time, be safe on this Sabbath. Kwam Yasha'Allah, rise, O Israel. Be safe. Tomorrow.